Hey guys, so today we are answering a subscriber question, and the question in question is why do companies complain about there not being enough software developers, but they don't do anything about it? So let's get into it. Well, I will try to give this reply as much justice as I can give it. Are you ready? Because they want somebody else to pay for it. That's why. You see, the thing is, guys, that and this is not true just for companies, this is true for anybody who has the ability to state that, hey, we have a problem here. The thing is, it's very easy to identify a problem and complain about it, but it's very hard to fix it, because that usually means that you actually have to do stuff in order to fix it, for something to happen. That sucks. Being a doer is a lot harder than being a talker or being a suggester, an identifier of problems. But unfortunately, that's for the most part the sort of people we're stuck with, especially at the top of the food chain. Anywho, the fundamental problem is that training people costs money. Finding people costs money. Absolutely everything related to getting a person to be able to write software costs money. And that is something that companies in general like to be a little bit conservative with. The thing is that you may never thought about this, but just finding a person who can write software. I mean, have you ever thought about, the recruiter who most likely is contacting you? That person, you'd think they do that for free? Of course not. Even hiring a junior is going to cost the company a lot of money. And even if they don't have a recruiter, the hours that a full-time employee most likely is going to have to invest in order to set up a code test, set up an interview process, go to a bunch of meetings to figure out what resources do they need, what skill do they need, we're talking about an investment. I've done it myself, and I've done part of this, and I have coworkers who do this, and I can tell you it is a full-time job just to hire somebody. So that is in essence what it's about. So just finding that person is one thing, and then you have the other thing here, which is kind of the same. I mean, it's the same sort of problem you have with people, depending on where you are, not wanting to hire, say, women who are about to give birth, things of this nature. But I don't know how it works here in your country, but in they have maternity leave and things of this nature, where companies, if you think about it from the company perspective, although they are not legally allowed to do this, it's very hard to prove this, but if you hire somebody like that, you're going to have to pay them for not doing any work for quite a long time. So, and it's a money thing. It's the same thing with this. So training a person is usually not something they want to do themselves, but they want somebody else to do it. Now, my guess is that this strategy is going to leave us in one of two places. It's leaving us in one place right today, which is the thing I've said to a few people on the comment sections, which is that the hardest part about being a software developer is to get the first job. That is without a doubt the hardest part, and I very much encourage you to really think about the first job and think about getting the right job more than getting paid to do any job, because once you have statistically 1 to 5 years on your CV of experience, you are pretty much set for life, or at least for as long as you stay relevant within the industry, because that is the range of comfort for most companies. That is the range in which they will consider somebody to be, it's the safe range, it's the safe sweet spot. That's where usually the requests come. I mean, if they're asking for even more years than that, that's a different story, but I can promise you, with that amount of time on your CV, you will be a very low risk person if you know what you're doing. It's going to be a fairly cookie cutter process for you to be hired at a company. You have to really mess it up, I would argue, or have something else it's like, or maybe there's just another candidate, but that's usually the sweet spot. So what I was saying is that I think that this is going to leave us in one or two situations. It's already kind of happening now, where the unwillingness to train people within the industry and provide the sort of education that is needed in order to actually accommodate the growing demand for software developers is getting to a point where it's getting painful. It's getting really painful. I actually had a bit of an epiphany, and that's something that you can think about yourself when you have the time. If you work for a company, I mean, if you've ever felt that, maybe I'm not so good at what I do, and if you've stayed employed at a company for any period of time, think about, just consider this. Think about in the time that you are providing value, because you are most likely providing some value. Just measure how long it takes for every new hire at your company, because you will most likely see a new person arrive with fairly long, or they either come in batches, or the time between each hire is going to be fairly long, and that is because it's so hard to actually find these people. So to fix this, I don't think we're going to see this change with this mindset that it has to get worse before it can get better. And what I mean by that is that just as humans, just in general in society, will absolutely do nothing until shit hits the fan so bad that it affects them personally. If you want people to really care about something, they have to sit in the shit with you. If it's okay, if they can click okay and just go to the next thing, if it's not critically stopping them from doing whatever they want, they won't care. And that is very much the same thing for companies, if you ask me. My guess is that this will continue until such a time that the demand is so massive that they don't have a choice. That's simple. And we're kind of getting there already, where more and more companies are training people because there's simply no way for them to find anybody else. The other path which I see, which is a little bit, I'm not saying scary, but another path that where things can go is that the industry is there's going to be, and it's already kind of starting. It's not to the point where I think we're going to end up, because this is also something I think is going to happen. But we have companies who are developing off-the-shelf solutions for the most common business problems. WordPress, it would be one such thing, but you have some things like, say, Mule, which is an integration platform, things of this nature, where there is a company who develops a platform that is generic enough that you can solve a very common business problem that a lot of companies have, which they usually hire developers to do. But it solves it in such a way that, it's not a perfect solution or custom solution for every company, but it's good enough that you can train people in a very short amount of time to produce the results that are needed for the company. Because honestly, we don't technically need developers to solve every single IT problem. And this is what I've been saying before. There are absolutely things that you can, if with some basic understanding of coding and so forth, you can actually produce value. You don't have to be like a master programmer for you don't call in a master programmer to fix your printer. There are tons of things that we could do in order to mitigate this problem with having too few programmers. And that is my guess, that this is going to go forward. And I think, without saying too much, that one of the main contributors to this sort of way of working is going to be in the region of serverless. I think that's one of the first steps. It's very early stage still, and there are many other tools out there. But this is the sort of technologies where you try to reduce down all the noise around what you actually want to do, to the point where you actually can train people in just the abstractions of the system or the product that you're selling. And by just knowing these abstractions, you can actually produce business value. Because I actually have friends who work as solution architects who have this exact setup, where they work full time towards really big companies with different integrations and different solutions. They have almost no understanding of traditional, like real professional grade software development, but they know these tools And with these tools, they can actually produce the results that these companies need, even though it may not be at a professional software development level. Well, that doesn't really matter, because it doesn't have to be. So what I want you to take away from this is that fundamentally why companies complain but they don't invest in training people is due to money. They want somebody else to do it, and that's usually how it goes. And that's why I urge you very strongly to remember that it's going to be rough for you to get the first job, most likely. It's not a given thing, but that is going to be the tough thing. But you can trust me when I say this. Once you have the training, I mean, I've noticed it myself. My first job was very tough. After I had my second job and I had worked for over a year, 2 years, something like that. I mean, the whole world, it changes on a dime, guys. It's like flipping a switch. The whole world opens up to you pretty much within IT. So remember that if you feel that you're struggling. Have a great day.